Hello, and welcome to the December edition of Readings at Sexan. I'm Malachi Edwin Vethamani, and I'm the host for this Christmas edition of Readings at Sexan. A big thank you to Sharon Barker for inviting me to host this session, but I must apologize for not looking festive. I blame it on the rain we have been experiencing. They kind of threw a spanner on my last minute shopping spree for buying more of this Christmassy stuff. So I'm sorry, no Santa Claus appearance today. Today we are going to have 5 writers to read to us, 4 Malaysians and 1 Singaporean. Our first reader will be Elaine Chiew. Elaine Chiew is the author of The Heartsick Diaspora, an editor and compiler of cooked up food fictions from around the world. She is a 2-time winner of the Britford Short Story Prize. She has been longlisted and shortlisted in numerous competitions. Today, Elaine will read her recent publication entitled The Seal Carver, which is published in the Best Asian Short Stories 2021 collection. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Elaine Chiew.
Hi there, I'm Elaine Chiew, and I'm really pleased to have been invited by Professor Edwin Vethamani to read for the festive holiday rendition of Readings at Sexan. I'm going to be reading The Seal Carver, selected for the Best Asian Short Stories, which was edited by Edwin himself, put out by Kitab. I hope you'll consider picking up this wonderful anthology if you're shopping for festive holiday presents. I'm going to try to put on a Christmas festive virtual background here. Here we go, as I read. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy. The Seal Carver. Through the louvered window of Clifford's second-floor studio on Koon Sing Road, he bent over a stretch of rice paper, writing the characters Yong Yuan with a brush. Hears, hello, and then again, hello. The second call is louder, and when he looks up, there atop the brown limb of the tambusu, he spots a glossy black bird, a myna. Its bill reminds Clifford of those American sweets his wife is so fond of, orange fading to a yellow tip. What do they call it? Candy corn. On her last trip to visit their sons in San Francisco, she had brought back 5 bags worth. She eats them like sunflower seeds, sir, their Indonesian helper had said. Indeed she does, and diabetic to boot, but any attempt to chasten her only infuriates her. Clifford's studio is located in the back of his father-in-law's shop house, also their home, and overlooks a small green field. And the sole distinctive feature is this aged tambusu that provides welcome shade from the afternoon sun slanting into his study. Clifford knows well all the different breeds of bird life that frequent this patch of geography. Given his love and artistic practice of painting Huaniao and Chinese calligraphy, how strange that he has never seen a myna before this. The myna looks at him. Its throat convulses, as if about to speak again. Hello, birdie. Clifford pauses. The interruption has caused him to make an unbecoming smudge in the dot character stroke of Yong, and the strange-shaped stone stroke now resembles a smirking mouth more than a stone. Where has the myna come from, and will it stay if he tries to coax it to come to him? The bird continues to observe him out of the corner of its eye, as if discerning the tidal flows of chi in its own good time. Abruptly, it flies off. There and then, Clifford decides to call the myna Clifford, as a gesture of vanity, but also of self-deprecation. He hopes it will return. Yesterday, out of the blue, a blast from the past. Xiaofen, his xuemei from university from 30 years ago, found him on Facebook and contacted him, ostensibly to commission a seal chop for a new business she has started with her daughter Qing Hui, come back for good from London. A bakery in Juche, it said, and the message also read, "Hello, Cliffy. I can't believe our paths have not crossed before this." And his eyes had glazed over, the rest of her message refusing to take purchase in his mind, because he was instantly transported to an image he hadn't thought about these many years. Him and Xiaofeng, buck naked on the twin-size bed in a friend's flat they had borrowed. Their smooth, thin bodies revealed in a lightning flash gaze in the mirror, wrapped around each other like two cicadas, all arms and legs entwined. The image brings with it a nostalgically sweet but blue feeling. Xiaofeng hadn't wanted to lose her virginity, so she had suggested alternate means of pleasuring each other. Just what were these alternate means? In answer, her eyes sparkling with mischief and laughter, she had pushed his head down towards her belly. 3 months in between monsoons spent in this sultry way, while their friend was in Kota Baru on art tutelage with a master. 3 months pleasuring each other without threatening her virginity, because he and Xiaofeng would never wed. She was betrothed to another, someone better suited, an upper-class Chinese with credentials and ambitions to match, handpicked for her by her wealthy parents. He suddenly remembered a Polaroid he took of them together. He with his arms slung around her shoulders, the two of them staring unsmiling into the camera, held at arm's length, a cigarette slouching from the corner of his mouth a la James Dean, both without a stitch of clothes on. He remembered it was taken close to their parting as the date of her wedding loomed. She was so full of life, so mischievous and cupid, lining up cut guava on his stomach and sprinkling plum salt on them and saying, "Oops," every time that the salt missed the guava, weighing his testicles and trying to guess how many grams they were. And yet, so thoughtless about a life to be lived without love. But was that not youth? You spared little thought for the future. No woman had made him laugh quite like that ever since. Definitely not Seok Keng, his wife. Where has the photograph gone? He begins an urgent search through his personal effects, desperately sure that he had never thrown it away, the sole memento mori of their time together. Seok Keng comes in as he's rummaging away, dust floating up from the papers and miscellany like pollen. She throws him a curious glance and sets his tea on the table. "Can you make sure you tidy up before the afternoon viewing?" The shop house, which has been their home for 20-odd years, belongs to Clifford's father-in-law, the business magnate, as Clifford likes to refer to him, tongue-in-cheek. It may not be their home much longer, as Charles wants to cash in, buy himself and them condos out by the coast in Pasir Ris. Clifford does not want to live in Pasir Ris with its social image of being sandwiched between the ghost-infested hospital of Changi and the charging wild boars of Sengkang. But he will have no say in the matter, as has been the case for his entire marriage with Seok Keng. He flaps his hands at her. No point going into words. Their conversational exchanges are often, to his mind, like environmental discharge, a byproduct of a married life focused on purpose and utility, a form of waste that lays daily siege to peace of mind and heart, highly toxic. When she goes on her annual sojourn to visit their children, now emigrated to San Francisco, it's the most restorative and peaceful 3 weeks of his year. And he often finds himself counting down the days to when she leaves. Thinking of his wife while searching for the photograph of past love. This is scandalous. His mind cleaved and divided while his heart feels snagged in turbulence. And it completely destroys his mood to finish the painting of a lotus pond on a rainy day with the couplet he means to write on the side. In her message, Xiaofeng had asked to meet to discuss the commission. She had exclaimed that she was happy to see that he had indeed fulfilled his ambition of being an artist, dedicated to his Chinese paintings and calligraphy while maintaining a seal carving business. She had even come to one of his exhibitions in the past at the Chinese Cultural Center, though she hadn't thought to contact him then. And why not, he wonders. Why now and not then? She had dashed off a few quick lines about her current life. Widowed, her message had said, and her daughter Ching. Coming back had been a boon. The bakery idea felt like a lease on new life. Widowed was another word he'd choose over, along with the tough beef in oyster sauce Seok King had made for dinner. She refuses to upgrade to fair-priced finest, saying the down-market fair price saves money. He marvels at Xiaofen's casual revelation of intimacies. They haven't been in touch for decades, and with one correspondence, it feels as if they are once again sitting on a bench by the side of a park connector, whispering dirty, salacious things in each other's ears and popping peanuts into each other's mouths. Thank you. Have a really, really wonderful and safe holiday season, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Elaine, for that reading of your short story. Your background certainly set the lovely Christmas festive mood that we needed for this reading session. Next, we have Cyril Wong from Singapore. Cyril is a poet and a fictionist. His recent publications include The Lover's Inventory and Infinite Diary. He is two-time recipient of the Singapore Literature Prize and the National Arts Council Young Artists Award for Literature. Cyril holds a PhD from the National University of Singapore. His writings have appeared in international magazines and anthologies by W.W. Norton and Everyman's Library. Today, Cyril will be reading to us his short story from the Kitab collection, from Kitab's Short Story Collection 2021. I give you Cyril Wong.
Hello, I'm Cyril Wong, and I'll be reading excerpts from my short story Anniversary from the Best Asian Short Stories 2021, published by Kitab. Heat is key. Nothing beats making your curry paste from scratch, says the website I stole the recipe from. There is something profound about knowing the exact constituents of your food, the sensorial tactility of every ingredient, every unit that makes up the eventual thing, so as not to take the completeness of that finality, the paste, the curry, then the dish as a whole, for granted. Spiciness is important. Heat is everything. It's the school holidays. I'm home cooking dinner for my boyfriend because it's our 11th anniversary as a couple today. 11 years since we first met in a bar in Chinatown, introduced by mutual friends. However, my time in the kitchen is producing metaphors about my relationship with Adam, full of implications that I'm not sure I can properly digest. Adam is the talker, while I hardly talk at all. Adam might be the social one, but I believe he shares my penchant for silence. It is typically hidden behind the general ease of his affability. That outward friendliness allows him to survive in a work environment that he can maneuver in without offending anyone. The art of saying much and saying nothing at all simultaneously has been an art he has mastered and secretly enjoys. Alone together, we actually barely speak at all. We tease a lot, yes. We also touch each other all the time, which has perhaps led me to assume that there was no need for excess verbiage. Is the heated fervor of physical intimacy all that defines us? Then, since we refrain from volubility, what if talking never becomes our thing? What if I lack trust in words, or the limited ways in which language can frame complex truths? What if I don't think that conversation is essential for revelations about the self and an ever-unfolding understanding of our deepest feelings? Now for other ingredients needed to complete the curry. Firm tofu I fried beforehand, kaffir lime leaves, chicken stock, then vegetables I cut up which slide from the chopping board and into the wok. Cabbage, carrot, snake beans. My workstation beside the stove has never looked so colorful. The kitchen has never smelled so fragrant. Adam used to be amused by my love of Malay food, for nasi padang. You're the only Chinese person I know who eats belacan by the spoonful, he once commented. He rarely eats nasi padang, mainly because it reminds him of his repressive childhood. We hardly cook at home, even during the weekends. The routine is to buy food from the hawker center downstairs and consume it unceremoniously in front of our television. He would devour anything from rice with roasted pork to wonton noodles, while I would order exclusively from the Malay food stall. Don't your taste buds rebel against a lack of variety? He once asked. My tongue isn't slutty like yours, I would say. He rolled his eyes. Absently, he might nonetheless pick bits of silode or other ingredients from inside my open packet of rice. I know better than to say anything whenever he does this. I know a part of him still misses the food he grew up eating. The television is on. Adam has had a long day. He plonks down and digs into his food beside me at the dining table. I watch his flickering profile as he picks up his chopsticks and his rice bowl. He spoons curry into his mouth. After chewing on some cabbage, he pauses and turns to me. You didn't buy this from downstairs? No. You like? You didn't blend in the paste properly. I can still chew on the ginger, and it's too spicy. Sorry, first time lah. The chopsticks are a nice touch. Thanks. Adam stops chewing and gazes at a vague point between the bowls on the table. Oh wait, is it today? It's okay. I didn't expect you to remember. Sorry, baby. No, really, it's okay. I feel bad that my cooking did not make him feel nostalgic for the best parts of his childhood. I feel stupid for trying to achieve this through food. I still don't know why this is important, not losing out on better aspects of our history, even as the worst parts, in Adam's case, the conservatism and homophobia, tend to eclipse everything else. Life has been kinder to me. After my parents died, I moved out, sold our family home, bought a flat, stopped going to church, dated whomever I wanted, and finally persuaded a man to move in with me. No drama, no trauma. I simply bided my time, as if coming to the end of a surprisingly bearable prison term, before entering a bright future as a queer atheist. I loved my parents, even though they understood nothing about my existential challenges. I just loved my life without them more. Adam had to uproot himself. He suffered inwardly more than I ever have. For him, the past, he shot me down once for bringing up his childhood. It was something he refused to discuss at length. His past was like a proper jail, full of pressures to become the perfect Muslim boy. There was much resentment that he had to exercise before becoming capable of self-acceptance, even love. Yet what are we without our past? Am I enough to ground him since his past has let him down? I realize Adam has been staring at me, such thoughts still flouncing through rooms of my mind. I didn't mean to criticize your cooking, he assures me, smiling, but his eyes slightly narrowed. Not wanting to worry him, I smile quickly. I notice a piece of cabbage has landed on his collarbone just inside his work shirt. I reach in and pick off the cabbage with my fingers, tossing it casually into my own mouth. He's looking into my eyes and smiling broadly. At nearly the same time, we both start to giggle. My thumb never leaves his body. I start to rub an invisible stain higher up along the side of his neck. I fail to notice when the news comes on. I envision a whole network of veins and arteries spreading out like branches of an inverted tree from where my finger is planted upon his quickening heartbeat. I hope you enjoyed my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Cyril, for that reading of your short story entitled Anniversary. We now go on to our next reader, and this time it's a poet from Malaysia. We have an emerging poet, Farah Nadhirah binti Cyril Anwar. Nadhirah was born in Kuala Lumpur and raised in the US, Nigeria, and Malaysia. She studied English with creative writing at the University of Nottingham, Malaysia, and she now freelances as an editor for Meraki Press. Her works have been featured in Particle Literary Magazine, Malaysian Millennial Voices, and most recently in Kitab's The Best Asian Poetry 2021. I give you Nadhirah.
Hello, my name is Nadhirah, and I'm going to be reading 3 of my poems today. The first poem is titled The Essential Oil Inventor, and you can find it in Malaysian Millennial Voices, now available for purchase on Shopee. The Essential Oil Inventor. Armed with oils, Mama tried to create a eucalyptus pulley that would lift the weight off my chest when I felt crushed beneath it. Slender minty leaves were knotted together with whispered prayers. She tried to construct a bergamot button that could repopulate the air with oxygen particles when I felt like there were not enough. Zest lingered on her rough hands from pressing the wrinkled round so regularly. She tried to build a cinnamon switch that would illuminate my mind with peaceful memories. The spicy stick splintered so often that her hands remained permanently bandaged. She tried to assemble a chamomile wheel to roll my worries away. Herbaceous dried petals crushed and glued together crumbled under the load. But Mama toiled away anyway, and that was enough. The second poem I will be reading is titled Ghazal, One Day, and it will soon be published in Kitab's The Best Asian Poetry 2021. Ghazal, One Day. Please tell me, when will I get my sun-baked sleepy Sundays, knocked out in a nasi lemak coma, no thoughts of Mondays? When will my friends and I embrace once more, arms around each other like gift wrap, ribbons of giggles boasting our fun day? When will I return to skip stones along the smooth sea of Mykonos, the waters wrinkling as a pebble aims for the horizon someday? When will fabric slip smoothly onto this body instead of getting caught on curves like fish in a net, swimming forcefully as they rue their done day? When will my palms kiss that of my yet unknown lover, fingers laced together, every moment feeling like a freshly begun day? The last poem I'll be reading is titled To Neighbor. It has been published in Particle Literary and Arts magazine. To Neighbor. In the 3 weeks your door was open, I had made myself at home in your adjoining hotel room, fluffed your self-esteem pillows for no lumps, lit up your hope lamp when it dimmed, made your thought bed night after sleepless night. And you seemed to like my place too. You enjoyed the cushion of my compassion carpet, relished in the old reruns of my memories TV, and took out the doubt trash without being asked. But one day, as I knocked at the chime of 9, you didn't answer. So day after day, I came back, banging till my knuckles ran raw. I nursed them in the dead of night when I heard your door creak. So I shot out of bed, peeked in, and neighbor, I cried at the sight of shards of light bulb, splintered across razor-thin pillows. So, leaving my sagging mattress behind, I asked, "Can I come in?" But startled, you scrambled to shut me out again. Sometime later, a blood-curdling howl broke from your room, so I threw my body against your door, bruising myself blue until you cracked it open, choking me with the acrid smell before slamming it shut. But still, I felt grateful that you opened at all. Next time, I'll do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadhirah, for the reading of your poems. We now go on to our next reader. This time we have Terence Toh. Terence is a freelance writer and copywriter from Kuala Lumpur. He was a journalist in the arts and culture section of a major newspaper for over 7 years. His short stories have been published in several anthologies. He has written 2 musicals, and his musical, The Walking Dead, won the Beau Cameronian Awards. His first novel, Toils Are Us, won the first Fixie Malaysian novel competition. Today, Terence will be reading to us from a short story that is published in the Kitab's Best Asian Short Stories 2021 edition. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Terence Toh.
Hi everyone, I'm Terence Toh, and I'll be reading from my short story Bloom, which was published in Best Asian Short Stories 2021 by Kitab Publishing. Thank you so much to Readings for inviting me to do this short story. So I will be reading from the middle of the story. It's about this couple, Jen and Gowri, who get together, they bond, discover gardening, and basically live a happy life until real life unfortunately gets in the way. So here we go. January 2020. In a way, this whole thing had started due to a careless chef. Under normal circumstances, Jen and Gowri would probably never have met, let alone spoke to each other. He was a marketing specialist at a multinational corporation in the heart of Kuala Lumpur. She was a freelance artist working out of her mother's flat in Sumangjaya. 2 souls as different as cats and cauliflowers. But what were the odds? Apparently, they shared a common friend. And this friend had invited them to a birthday party at a swanky restaurant in Bangsa. Jen and Gowri had both attended. This had been early 2020, months before the pandemic unleashed its full wrath around the world. A simpler, more innocent time, when most people thought of Corona as just a beer from Mexico. A time before phrases like social distancing or flattening the curve had strong-armed themselves into daily vocabulary. The guests walked markless into the party. They hugged and shook hands freely. No one's temperature had to be recorded. Jen and Gowri sat opposite each other. Yet they did not speak, both their attention stolen by the other guests. They might have just gone on separately, their lives never intersecting, had Jen not been served with the worst meal he had ever had in his life. He had ordered a garlic steak, well done. What he received, however, failed at every sense of that phrase. The meat was rubbery and oozed crimson the moment he plunged his knife into it. The sauce was watery and the garlic was burnt. And dear God, was that a hair he saw among the fries? Jen had complaints, and the head chef, a distinguished-looking Frenchman in his 70s, was summoned. He apologized profusely and agreed to exchange the meal. "I'm sorry, I don't understand," the head chef kept repeating. In all his decades of experience, he had never messed up a meal so badly. And the girl opposite him had laughed. "That is super cool," she exclaimed. "Like, I'm sorry about your meal and all, but think about it. You are a miracle of probability." Gowri was a small and slender woman with scarlet highlights in her hair. Her earrings were shaped like tiny dream catchers, and a large purple flower peeked out from behind her right ear. She looked as if she would break out into a hula performance at any second. "What are you talking about?" Jen fumed. "That chef must have cooked thousands of meals in his life. And you are his first mess-up, apparently. What are the chances? The food gods either really love you or hate you. Gauri laughed again, and Jen was suddenly aware of how beautiful she was. Maybe you should go and buy 4D numbers. What? Why? Clearly you're a man against the odds. Maybe you'll get super lucky again, win the big jackpot. I don't think probability works that way, Jen had scoffed. Hey, no harm trying, Gauri said. Also, I think you deserved what you get. Why lah, you come to a place like this and order a steak well done. Normally, Jen would have ignored this rebuke, or perhaps even been offended. Yet there was something about the way this woman spoke that made him smile. Jen responded with a joke, and through the strange sorcery of good conversation, this led into a discussion of culinary do's and don'ts, before transforming into a comparison of worst dinner parties ever. It ended up a complete bitch fest about the state of cuisine nowadays. Jen usually treated small talk the way he treated other small things, such as children or viruses, as nuisance that should be avoided as much as possible. Yet, he had enjoyed the conversation. He had never met anyone this witty. Numbers were exchanged. A first date was held, which led to a second, then a third, and the two stopped counting after that. They went to the cinema and to the aquarium and to the park. She introduced him to Shah Rukh Khan films, and he opened her eyes to the magic of K-pop. They walked hand in hand through the mall, gossiping loudly about any interesting strangers across their path. They cycled through the neighborhood, stopping at intervals to pluck leaves of pandan flowers. They made love in 4-star hotel rooms and in the dusty backseats of vehicles. They experimented with art in ways that always ended very, very peculiarly. Gauri was a freak, always ready to start something, and Jen was always along for the ride. 4 months after their first date, Gauri moved in with Jen, but she did not come alone. She had a little jungle with her, an assortment of potted plants of all colors and sizes. "They're my babies," she said, barely embarrassed. "You don't mind if I put them here, do you?" Jen didn't. He would have put up with a sewage plant in his apartment if it meant that Gauri would be close. They bought a 4-shelf plant rack from IKEA and put it up. Jen's balcony, which he hardly used, now stored Gauri's watering cans, fertilizer bags, and other gardening necessaries. And for a while, things were predictable, but good. Every day, Jen would rise early and go to work, where he would bury himself deep in the ways of marketing. Gauri would rise at noon when she would tend to her plants and work at her art. Then Jen would return from work and good, sweet love would be made. He had to admit, it was nice returning to a house filled with green, especially after 8 hours in the most sterile office known to man. To spend nights with a warm body pressed against his, and to wake with fresh kisses in the morning? That was pure bliss. But alas, all good things never last. August 2020. Gauri had to lie down. She was coughing violently. Jen wanted to drive her to the doctor, but she turned him down. She should minimize all contact with him for a while, just in case she had, you know what. She dared not even say its name. Somehow even saying it may make it real. Invite it to come. She took a grab to the nearest clinic. Jen had trailed behind her in his own car. The doctor confirmed their worst fears. She was in serious condition and had to be quarantined immediately. "But how?" Gauri had wailed. "I haven't gone out in months." "It's hard to know how this happens," the doctor shook his head sympathetically. "You can pick it up from anywhere. Sometimes you get the germs off a lift button, a door handle, a food container. I'm so sorry." Normally, patients with slight symptoms would be moved to a quarantine center in Sedang, a 50-minute drive away. But Gauri's case had developed far beyond that. Intensive medical care was needed, immediately. An ambulance was called, and Gauri was rushed to a nearby hospital. Jen wasn't even allowed to accompany her. The next weeks were a bit of a blur. Jen visited her every day he could, even taking leave from work to do so. Mostly, he wasn't even allowed to see her, but somehow, it just felt good to be under the same roof. He would always be there for her, as close as he could get. Jen was in no way a religious man, but he had never prayed more in his life than when Gauri had been admitted. Surely the universe would not be so cruel to take away the person he loved most, would it? One day at work, he received a phone call. And I think that's a perfect time to end the story. So if you want to know what happens next, please pick up the Best Asian Short Stories by Kitab Publishing. I believe it's out now. Thank you so much for having me and have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you, Terence. We now come to the final reader for this session. We have Ivy Ngeow. Ivy was born and raised in Johor Bahru. She turned to serious writing after graduating from Middlesex University with an MA in writing. And it was here that she won her first international competition, the 2005 Middlesex University Literary Press Prize. In 2016, she was awarded the International Proverse Prize in Hong Kong for her debut novel, Cry of the Flying Rhino. Ivy is author of 5 novels, numerous short stories, and 4 lifestyle how-to mini guides. Ivy lives in London. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Ivy Ngeow, who will read 2 texts from her latest publications.
Hi everyone, my name is Ivy Ngeow. I was born and raised in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. I am the author of 5 novels and numerous short stories. I live in London. I'm thrilled to be reading for you in this month's readings. Today I'm going to be reading to you from my short story, The Dog Sitter, and from my latest novel, Overboard. The Dog Sitter. He took a long, hard look, and then he said, "Okay." David Sow had never had a dog before, but then he'd never lost his job before. There was a first for everything. His 22-year-old niece, Stephanie, who'd never worked a day in her life, now fancied a change. She was going to America to check out a course. It was all right for some people. She'd offered to pay him 200 ringgit a day, expenses on top. David was not in a position to say no. All he had to do was to keep the dog company, take him for walks, feed him. Seemed like the easiest job. He thought back when he was in PR a year ago, managing a tech firm's marketing and web strategy. He hadn't found anything else since. Soon he would be handling a dog. Now that was a different animal. Having to bite down on his pride whenever he dropped by at his brother's did not make it easier. His brother and sister-in-law ran different businesses morning to night. He never saw them. You would know they lived here. He looked around him at the dark granite patio with a hammered finish, where the dog had been padding around since living here. The dog's house alone was a palace, a mini sandstone temple with built-in Italian spray taps for washing the stainless steel water and food bowls. There was no denying that his brother had done well for himself. 5,000 square foot designer house with swimming pool and electronic gates in Mont Kiara, with far-reaching views of Klang Valley. A new black Range Rover, his brother's spare family vehicle, and a couple of less rugged vehicles, such as a tiny sports Mercedes, which was Stephanie's, and a Prius, the wife's shopping trolley. "His name is Keen," said Stephanie. She wanted a personal maid just for herself, and she got 2, a big dog, and she got 1, and now she decided she'd die for a film studies course in San Francisco, and that too was in the bag. "Pardon?" said David, distracted when he looked straight into the dog's soul, if there was such a thing, and the dog stared back. Keen. Keen was like a long-lost friend found again. The dog's eyes had the sad, downturned look of an ancient lion, yet he was not old. He was only 4. In human terms, he would be a young, fit, hot-blooded man, chuckled David. The opposite of him. He was a slight, bespectacled, middle-aged Annie-man, an ex-manager type with no interests except lunch or golf. And even that was now a fantasy, like going to the moon. His only thrill had been dragging himself to a sports bar in Bangsa village to watch Liverpool's Champions League matches at 3 a.m. Perfect for the unemployed. Golf, private health insurance, gym membership, and lunch at the club had been the perks of his job. His world. He stroked the dog's head tentatively. He okay one, uncle. You can sayang him. If he don't like you, you will know straight away. Okay, David laughed. Keen's tail, wagging continuously, slapped Stephanie's thigh. His jaw hung open in a drooly smile. The dog shut his large, sad eyes, like it was rare to be shown affection from anyone apart from Stephanie, who was now too busy. David's hand moved to tickling the dog's neck, which David enjoyed almost as much. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you liked that excerpt from the short story, The Dog Sitter. And now I'm going to read to you an excerpt from my latest novel, Overboard. Overboard came out last year. She logged out, as it was not worth trying tonight. She tried to call Greg again, but there was no reply. The phone was off, and if only she had tried ringing him about 3 days ago or daily. But they did not have that kind of relationship. The British valued and respected privacy and independence. Don't like to bug people, they'd say. They needed their space. A Western concept, invented to mean no verb required. For example, if someone, to be fair, that would be Greg, started a question beginning with, could you just... You must complete it with, okay. No verb was required. There was an unspoken rule already in place, called marriage. What Greg had been up to or what the shoot entailed in Singapore, she had no idea and mostly didn't want to know. Most of his contracts required non-disclosure agreements. He was working for the insalubrious, debauched, and very wealthy, in his own words. In her mind, this translated as job involving top-class recreational drug use. Her throat had been tight as she'd been shuffled into the internet cafe in an alleyway of the village square that evening. When one was on a grown-up gap year, or groggy, the theory was that one did not actually want to be connected all the time. That was the theory. Phoebe was a graphic designer, and Greg was a portfolio careerist, meaning photographer, videographer, influencer, blogger with compound streams of income and contracts. Those were just his official jobs. Now she shivered to think what unofficial mission he was on when he went silent. Someone like him, a slashy with multiple work lifestyles, was always a cool guy, an enigma, a rogue, which was why she was attracted to him in the first place. He'd also decided for her that she should have a safe 9-to-6 job as an employee, that she should quit her job to travel and to volunteer with him in Cambodia. And through all this, she should inform him when she was and where she was at any point in time. The same rules did not apply to him. If she at all disagreed, demurred, or even just asked where he was, he would lose his temper and storm off. The bureaucracy and sexism mostly blew her mind, But she kept her cool. Being Chinese, she was used to being repressed and controlling her entire range of emotions, from rage to utter delight. You never displayed anything if you weren't sure that you should, and who the hell was even sure. I hope you liked my excerpts. You would be able to find me on my URL or on my Facebook page, and you can also drop me an email. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's reading, and I'll see you again next time. All the best for Christmas and the New Year. Bye.
Thank you, Ivy, for that reading. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the close of our December and Christmas edition of Readings at Seksan. Let's look ahead for a happier 2022. So here's wishing you all a happy New Year, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Keep safe and keep well. I hope in 2022 we might be able to have in-person sessions of readings at Seksan in Bangsa. But before I leave, a big thank you to Param for editing the videos and putting the sessions together. So it's goodbye from me and see you soon. Bye-bye.